Now to our earlier story, the biggest Balikatan exercise between Filipino and American troops is set to formally begin tomorrow as China concludes its large-scale military drills facing Taiwan over the weekend. Let's now get the thoughts of Defense Analyst Jose Custodio, who's joining us now from San Francisco, California. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Custodio. This Balikatan exercise, plus the new EDCA site designations, isn't this administration indirectly telling China we don't have an independent foreign policy and the Philippines is pro-American?
Well, we have an alliance with the United States. It's a mutual defense alliance. So basically, we are obligated by that alliance to be a responsible treaty partner. So that's all I can say about that. We are living up to our obligations in the Mutual Defense Treaty. So that is a reality that we cannot escape from. Because we agreed. The Philippines has not backed out of the Mutual Defense Treaty. So as long as that treaty exists, then we are pretty bound to be an ally of the United States.
So the Philippines is living up to its obligations to the Americans, but on the flip side, Mr. Custodio, what is the likelihood then that the Philippines and China, who President Marcos says is a good friend of the country as well, will have their own version of Balikatan?
The Philippines cannot, as long as there is no VFA type relationship between the Philippines and China, there is no possibility of something like that happening. The only reason why one of the reasons why we have the Balikatan going on in the Philippines is precisely because of the Visiting Forces Agreement, which answers to a constitutional requirement. So that's why we have that. So what Marcos may be saying is a moderate statement.
So this is the biggest ever Balikatan exercise for the Philippines and the United States. Are we likely to see the Chinese responding with any type of military exercise apart from what they've already done over the past 3 days with Taiwan?
Well, definitely they've been trying to pressure the Department of Foreign Affairs. At the same time, I think there's also, within the Philippines, there's also an uptick of pro-China activities being done by their local counterparts in the Philippines, from these pro-China groups within the Philippines. So you have an uptick of those types of activities. It's all they're trying to push back on this, But as long as Marcos the president is undertaking that policy, then it will be very difficult for the Chinese to be able to win or to have something similar to what they enjoyed during the Duterte administration happen in this current administration.
How do you think can the Chinese win the hearts and minds of Filipinos, Mr. Custodio?
Well, I doubt they'd be able to win the hearts and minds of the Filipinos for the simple fact that they are stealing our entitlements, in the South China Sea, in the West Philippine Sea, our exclusive economic zone. They are seen as a corrupting presence within our country, as seen in the Pogo. So it's very difficult for them to try to reinvent themselves. They say one thing, and then they do another thing. Like, for example, they say that they're for peace, but at the same time they harass our fishermen, and then they harass our research vessels. So it's very difficult for them. It will be next to impossible for them to improve their image.
And of course, the last time we spoke, Mr. Custodio, it was about the laser tagging incident by the Chinese Coast Guard. And you know what? China keeps on surprising us. What could be their next bullying strategy, you think?
Well, basically, it's always going to be a mix of pressure in the West Philippines. They will continue. They already painted themselves into a corner by saying that they claim the entire South China Sea, including the West Philippine Sea. So they've stoked up so much nationalistic type fervor within their own country among their people. So they can't back out from that. So we would expect them to be as aggressive as they've been always. Expect them to harass our not just our fishermen but also our vessels there, naval or coast guard. Those things would continue, until. But on another hand, also they will try to see if that they can also co-opt or win over local politicians in the Philippines. And we saw something like that when this particular Balikatan was being planned, that there were certain local officials who were actually exhibiting pro-Chinese sentiments. Mm-hmm. So they will try to build up on that, so that come 2028 they will be able to most likely have a repeat of what they experienced during the Duterte.
And let's take a look at the EDCA sites. President Marcos Jr. Today said the addition of these 4 new EDCA sites in Cagayan, Isabela, and Palawan should not worry China, and because he would not allow the bases to be used by American troops for launching offensive attacks. Do you think that this will, in one way or another, tone down China's rhetoric?
Well, China obviously understands that these are actually done to try to contain them and their aggressive acts in the South China Sea and also in the Taiwan area of operational area. So they know this is actually directed against them. So they will not be misled by what all of these assurances that this is for humanitarian assistance and disaster response. We can always see here that this bases, the intention also is to have a certain level of redundancy in the Philippines when it comes to areas wherein the alliance can project its forces in the event of a crisis. Not just because Galvez was saying something about this was for HADR, but it's not really just for HADR. These are actually bases from which one can, or operating areas where one can project, in as you can see, looking at that map, you can see projection towards the South China Sea, West Philippine Sea area, and then up north it's projection towards Taiwan.
But Mr. Custodio,
so that provides flexibility especially for the Americans, because they are the more capable partner here. We, in the case of the Philippines, we are practically just providing real estate.
Correct. But if you put yourself in the position of China, would you be as concerned as Beijing, which has said that the country was getting drawn into a potential conflict in the Taiwan Straits after the designation of these new EDCA sites?
Would I be concerned? Yeah, because it would, well, for starters, the Chinese are still inferior militarily as compared to the United States. And of course, the preponderance of firepower that the U.S. enjoys together with its very capable allies within the region. In addition to us, they have the U.S. has Japan and Australia, and even other countries are coming in, like India and so on. So this by itself, it can make the Chinese worried, but it can also hammer down on them that, yeah, you can be aggressive if you want to. You can state, but at the end of the day, we totally outmatch you. It can constrain them in whatever activities that they want to do, which have mischievous activities that they want to do in the future. So, this may constrain them.
And briefly, Mr. Custodio, we just saw China launching these military drills around Taiwan, which was dubbed United Sharp Sword, and it ended today. Do you think that this is a prelude to Beijing invading Taiwan?
Well, actually, if you think about it, the mere fact that United Sharp Sword is the name of that, they didn't really think about the English initials of that. It's actually USS, But anyway, beside the point. But no, amphibious operations are are the most difficult operations to conduct. And this is not a short hop over a few miles of water. This is a 100-mile gap between Taiwan and China. So for them to they may choose to want to declare war or try to do something, but it's a different matter altogether if they can achieve victory. It's just like Russia, invading Ukraine, thinking that it could, but at the end of the day, now it's a year later, and they're bogged down in Bakhmut. So the thing with the Chinese is that they may saber rattler about war, about invading, and then if once they do that, they're at this point in time they will be roundly defeated by the Taiwanese and whatever is thrown against them, especially once the U.S. steps in. So, and I think the Chinese also know that, that it's something that at this particular point in time, given their military capabilities, they are not capable of doing. They are not capable of overwhelming the Taiwan. They lack the necessary punch for that. They can lob missiles, but it's still another thing to try to physically occupy an island that is 100 miles away.
And if that is the case, the saber rattling from China will indeed continue. Thank you so much for your insights. Defense Analyst Jose Custodio joining us from San Francisco, California.